Hi there, my name is Jeff Butcher. Let's get started.
So let's talk about mapping. The source files that you might want to load into Senzing range from the simple to the complex. Simple is a flat list of entities, like these employees in a CSV file, to the complex, like this XML file of the OFAC list, where you have to go to the publisher of the list to look up the data formats and the schemas. So let's start with the simple, but realize no matter how complex, there are only two things to do: decide what fields belong to what entity, and map them according to the Senzing generic entity specification located here. This is your guide. The overview discusses the different ways to load your map data. On page 4, you will see what a mapped JSON record looks like. On page 5, you will see what a mapped CSV file looks like. Then page 6 tells you what to look for in a person or in an organization. Now, while Senzing is really an index that points back to where the source data can be found, some key dates, statuses, and amounts can help you decide if you really need to look any further. For instance, a vendor related to an employee who has influence over purchases is more important than the same vendor related to an employee that doesn't. And a company you do business with who is on a watch list for bad reasons is more important than the same match to a company you did business with several years ago. The rest of the spec deals with the attributes that you can map to. For instance, you'll need to map a data source and a record ID, because that's how we map back to the source system. Here are all the attributes you can use for a name and for an address, for phone numbers, for physical attributes like date of birth and citizenship, for identifiers like passport, driver's license, and social, for account numbers and other numbers that are issued by organizations rather than governments, for social media, for groups a person is affiliated with, and for disclosed relationships. Let's go back to our CSV and map it. I will insert a new header row for our mappings. There. See how I've mapped the employee number to record ID? That appears to be the unique key for an employee in this file. There is no field for data source, but I can specify one for the whole file when I load it. I have also mapped all the obvious names, addresses, phones, etc. to the corresponding attributes in the generic entity specification, and use the special labels like primary for the name and home for the address, as these will help us understand how they were used when there are multiple. For instance, the best name for the entity should be selected from the primary names before any AKAs, and you may want to get the best home and the best mailing address if both are present. Now let's look for any key dates, statuses, and amounts that we will want to display with our employees. Knowing the job category, job title, and hire date can help us make decisions when a match is made, but salary is usually protected for employees and the rehire flag seems to be empty, so I will remove those. There, now I have mapped those. Notice how I simply used the column names as attributes. There's no need to even register them with Senzing. They are just payload that will be returned with the record whenever requested. Now, what is this last field, employer? It is a name on the record, but it does not belong to the employee. It is the name of a group that he is associated with and should be mapped as such. In this case, the corresponding Senzing attribute is called employer name. There. Now this file is completely mapped. I just need to delete the old header row, and it is ready to load. If only all files were this simple. Okay, so let's complicate this file. I've added several fields to the end. We have an employee address now. Now that we have more than just name, let's make it its own entity, and then we can link all the employees to it. We have an other ID, which could be either driver's license or passport. And what is this student ID? That's odd. We have a manager ID. Seems like it could be the employee number. Who is that number 12? Joanne Peters. She's the head of sales, and all the salespeople are pointed to her. Yep, that looks like the employee number, all right. And the sheriff's card? Is it even important? And some people apparently have two. Well, this certainly complicates things. Now we have two entities per row, and the employer seems to be duplicated. We got the column other ID type and number, which could be one of two things. We want to capture the relationships of the employer to the employee, as well as the employee to their supervisor. And this dirty sheriff's card field, do you think we can even use it for matching? Let me do some research and mark this up. Remember, I have to decide what fields belong to what entity and what is the field called in the Senzing generic entity specification. Okay, so here it is. I've added another header row and a column to identify what fields belong to what entity. The blue row is for the employee, the green row for the employer. See how the employer name belongs to both? For the employee, it's an associated group. For the employer, it's the primary name of the organization. Always use name org when mapping known organization names. I have mapped the employer address to business at or full, as it is a complete address in one field, and business is a special label that adds more weight to business addresses. The McDonald's on First Street is not the same as the McDonald's on Second Street, even if they do have the same phone number. They are different entities that should be related. Also, every record you map to Senzing needs a record ID, and the employer didn't seem to have one. So we will have to compute one, which is pretty easy to do. Now this other ID stuff belongs to the employee, but I can't just map the column to driver's license or passport. I will need a bit of code for that. And the business users don't really know what to do with the student ID, so I'll just map it to the Senzing other ID, although I doubt we will get any matches. The manager ID is indeed the employee number. I reviewed the generic entity spec, and I will need to map this to a rel pointer so that I can point it back to the original employee number. And I found out that the sheriff's cards are important to use for matching. Not only will they help us relate our employees to each other, but we sometimes get it from other feeds as well, and it will help us match across them. I marked it in red because we are going to need to add a feature for this and parse it into multiple ID numbers when there is a comma. So this is definitely hard to map as a CSV, but surprisingly easy with a little bit of Python code. Let me show you. Here is the Python code. Open an input file and two output files, one for each entity type. Here's where we compute the record ID for the employer based on his name and address. Here we write the mapped employee to the employee file, and here we map the employer to the employer file if we haven't already done so. Close up the files when you're done and you're ready to load them. Well, maybe I should show you the actual mappings. Here's the employee, the required attributes of data source, entity type, and record ID. The fields that are easy to map for resolution, name, address, phone, date of birth, social. The special code to map the other ID as either the driver's license or the passport number. Now you will run into this kind of thing fairly often. I take the approach of mapping what I know and then letting everything else fall into the other ID bucket. If later you decide to create a feature out of one of the other IDs, come back and update this code. Here's the special code for the sheriff's ID with a simple split by comma. Here's how you implement sublists, by the way. It wouldn't matter if you had one sheriff's card, 2, or 10. That's the beauty of the JSON format. Here are the additional payload fields that will help us understand the entity better. And finally, the relationships. If you go back and read the generic entity spec, it says to create an anchor feature if there's the possibility that other records will be related to it. I'm using employee number to relate employees to their managers. And here I'm relating the employee to the employer based on the employer ID domain. Now a pointer can have a role. I could have just hard-coded the word employer here, but I decided to use the job category instead so I could immediately see if they were an executive or not. You want to avoid really long names here, as the role should appear on the line drawn between the two entities. So I avoided the job title, as I have seen some really long ones, like Vice President in charge of operations in the Western Hemisphere. And finally, if he has a manager, I will point him back to the manager's anchor with the simple role of managed by. Notice that I place these relationships in a list as well, another advantage JSON has over CSV. And that's really it. Well, here's the employer mapping, but it's really more of just the same. Let's run this and give it a quick test. Here we go. 38 rows processed. That's right, no errors. Now let's see what Senzing thinks of it. Did you know G2 Loader has a test mode? Let's try it. Just add the -T. Now, if I had millions of records, I would press Control-C after the first 100,000 or so, just to look at these stats. Looks like 100% of the employees had names and dates of birth. Only 3 had passports and 4 had driver's licenses. I got my relationship anchors and pointers. But here in the unmapped section, I got the sheriff's card. I forgot to add it. Let's do that now. At the end of the generic entity specification, it talks about the G2 config tool. Let's go into it and type help. Wow, there's a lot you can do in here, but the system does come pre-configured. All you really have to do is add your data sources and any new features and attributes, which are both rare, but all the other stuff is there in case you need it. The way you add a data source is like this. But I had already done so it tells me it already exists. Let's check the employer, and it also already exists. Now we ship with almost everything you need for people and companies. Usually the only thing people find in their data that needs to be added are certain ID numbers like this sheriff's card. So we have templates for that. See, there are 3. A basic identifier is an ID number that only one person should have, but sometimes gets shared, like an account number. You likely have multiple account numbers. An exclusive identifier is like a driver's license and has more weight. You really should only have one of these at a time, but as long as you have the same name and SSN or date of birth, you can have 2 driver's licenses. A stable identifier is like an SSN and has the maximum weight. It is rare that we resolve an entity with 2 SSNs. Now, when I come across an identifier that I don't know, I give it the basic level until I see that it should have more weight. So I will add the sheriff's card as basic for now. Now I just need to save and exit and run the test again. And now it's a mapped feature. We are ready to load. Now let's see what this data would look like after it's been loaded. Let's go into the web app and search up for ABC Company. Here he is, an employer, with all of its relationships. Let's go into one of the employees. Here's Jamie, the president, who manages the other executives. I think this looks good. I can't promise you all the files you have to map will be this easy, but the hard part is learning how the data is structured, not how to map it to Senzing. Beware, there may be more than one entity on the record, and we need the identifying data like names, addresses, phone numbers, and identifiers that you will find in the generic entity specification. Just make sure what you map belongs to the correct entity. You'll want to use name.org for company names and use business address to keep different subsidiaries of the same companies apart. Always look for some key dates, statuses, and amounts that can help you make sense of the entity. Now, if you are mapping other kinds of files besides CSV, like XML or JSON, you will simply replace the CSV reader with an XML or JSON reader. You're going to read the input file, compute any fields needed, and map the raw and computed attributes to the correct entity on the record. Now, in our GitHub community, you will find several mappers for governmental and commercial feeds that we have already built for you, and more will be coming. But you will likely have to map your own internal data, and I hope this video helps. Now, the CSV mapper has an analyzer that gets you the population statistics of each column and the top 5 most used values. It is extremely helpful in mapping any CSV file. Feel free to use this or any of the others, although you may have to purchase data from the associated vendor, like Dun & Bradstreet and Dow Jones. Also, the IJIC mapper is a good example of mapping where you have multiple CSV files. They are loaded into a temporary database using pandas and SQLite, so you can roll through each master record and look up its relationships. The OFAC mapper is a good example of reading an XML file, and the D&B mapper includes a good example of reading a JSON file. Now, these are all written in Python, but if you are a Ruby, C# or Java coder, you will find corresponding concepts and libraries, and you can treat this as pseudocode for you to follow. Now it's your turn. Thanks for your time, and I hope this has helped. Good luck.